Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Well, this is the first time we meet after a loss in the postseason, and damn it, it does not feel good. The Phillies get shut out down in Atlanta 3-0, and we have to go right to that sixth inning because it was a disaster. Rhys Hoskins needs to make the play. There's no doubt about it. While Zack Wheeler did put the team in a bad spot, hitting Ronald Acuna Jr., and then, of course, with the walk to Dansby Swanson, you have 2 outs, you walk a batter, you're already hitting guys. I mean, it's not good, but then there's the dribbler that happens, and then the hit up the middle after Rhys already makes his mistake. If Rhys just gets the ball in his damn glove and goes over to first base like 99.9% of first basemen do in this league, we're not even having this discussion right now. So it is painful and it is brutal to see Rhys mess up that badly. But at the end of the day, this team was always built around mistakes happening and then your power making up for it. It wasn't as if because Bo makes a couple of good plays in St. Louis that there you go, the defense is cleaned up. This was always going to be problematic when you have Rhys Hoskins at first, when you have certain guys out there. Nick Castellanos making that grab that he made in game 1 in the 9th inning, that's not normal. More times than not, you're going to get the pathetic version of the defense, which we saw today. You need your offense to step up, and Rhys is one of those guys. He's been awful at the dish, and same with Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber did get boned on the outside part of the plate where it wasn't even close to being a third strike call. But, I mean, there's been so many bad at-bats from him, and the fact that there's pitches to hit, and he's just not doing his job, and it's unacceptable at this point. When looking at Rob Thompson, though, I know the outrage right now is to change it up. I would change up number 2. I would move Rhys and keep Kyle there. Knowing Rob Thompson's personality, though, I think he's going to roll out the same top of the lineup on Friday when you're playing at Citizens Bank Park. I think it's possible that the 2 spot is different, whether you slot Alec Boehm up there and put Bryce Harper back at the 3 spot so he can get an AB in the first inning. I'm just spitballing. Then JT Realmuto can bat clean up. Nick Castellanos can bat after him, and you can find a slot for Rhys. I just don't think that that's Rob Thompson's personality, and there's a reason why they connect with him the way that they do. I also need to acknowledge that this is postseason ball, and at this point, you're going to have to make some uncomfortable decisions. You're going to have to make game-by-game decisions. It's not June. It's not July. It's you're going back home, and you need to take the series lead 2-1 with Aaron Nola. So I can't wait to see what Rob does. I'm fascinated. But my gut tells me we're going to see it. See the same exact thing. Now, if they actually execute and they do their job, then I won't knock it. And I'll say, Rob, you pushed the right buttons because you played the waiting game and they answered the bell. They answered your test. They responded to the manager. Kyle Schwarber has been around too long for me to just pull the plug. I heard Jim Salisbury, though, talk about this, and he mentioned the fact that Rob making that type of decision, that could reek like desperation. That could maybe set a message to the team or send a message to the team, an uncomfortable one. Like, uh-oh, I'm getting nervous. We have to do something different. So there's a fine line, and I don't really know the answer. Maybe the answer is just one of those guys for some sort of spark. But yeah, I mean, I look at this and say, Rhys Hoskins, man, it starts with you. Now, I say this to all the pitchers, no matter if you're Zack Wheeler, if you're Noah Syndergaard, if you're Kyle Gibson, if you're Ranger Suarez, if you're Aaron Nola. Now, Zack Wheeler pitched his ass off, and he's not the reason why you lost this game. But there are plenty of times in this sport where someone does fail, and your teammates don't have your back, and you got to answer. And you got to punch somebody out. Get a big strikeout. Get out of the inning, even though Rhys did mess up brutally. Now, I don't know if it was the delay because of Ronald Acuna Jr. getting hit and going down, and then finally getting to first base, which took some time. And then by the time Dansby Swanson got up there, he just wasn't in his role, in his groove anymore. It totally threw him out of his funk. It's very possible. He's claiming it's not, but we'll see. So I wish that was there, and it wasn't. While the Braves are making spectacular plays, Riley's falling into the tarp, Dansby Swanson is making insane, epic, over-the-shoulder grabs as he's diving into that no man's land in the outfield. So they got it. Big picture, going 1-1 in Atlanta before returning to South Philadelphia, you did your job, and I give you credit. But in the moment right now, I think you let one slip. This was a winnable game. Now, let's say Rhys Hoskins makes the play, and the game continues. And Zack Wheeler was shining with his pitch count. It was so low. It was unbelievably low. Who knows how much longer he could have went if that sixth inning didn't happen. My point is, though, even if Rhys does field the ground ball, where's your offense coming from? In the second inning, Bryce Harper gets a leadoff double. Castellanos ropes one to center field, which got him to third base. And then you had two men with a chance to knock him in. They failed. It was Marsh and who else? Alec Boehm. Now, Marsh batted seventh. Personally, and I don't know if this would have been the difference, because it's not as if Bryson Stott was rocking Kyle Wright tonight by any means, or anybody for that matter. But I would have put Stott at seventh, kept Gene at eighth, and Marsh at ninth. If it was Stott in that AB, I don't know if that's the difference or not. I don't know if a run comes home or not. I just know that I'd rather go down swinging with Bryson instead of not Alec Boehm, but Brandon Marsh in that at-bat. But it is what it is. One run wouldn't have even been enough. So at that point, it's irrelevant. There probably could have been, and this goes to both sides, home runs on any given night that would have went out if it wasn't this night with whatever the weather was. It looked like some balls died out there. Kyle Schwarber made a catch at the wall that maybe would have carried a bit deeper. I thought there was some good contact for what it's worth, but on this given night, it doesn't matter, I guess. That's just how it goes. That's the nature of the beast. Maybe it's a bomb on a different night, on a hotter night, if it wasn't as cool. It was very important, though, for them to get this game in, and this is more of a bigger picture thought. And Zack Wheeler, credit to whoever asked this during the post game and when they were able to get to the availability in the locker room, but asked about, he only threw about 79 pitches or so, and the fact that they pitched today instead of it being canceled today and game 2 being tomorrow on Thursday, which is now an off day to travel, this sets up game 5, if needed, differently. Now, Zack Wheeler answered the question by saying, I haven't really thought about pitching in game 5 if I need to. But I'll tell you what, the fact that today was played, we might be talking about that on Sunday afternoon if it happens to go the distance. I'm mad and I'm upset and I'm extremely disappointed and I'm going to have rage for the next 24 hours or so because, I thought that this was a winnable baseball game. They got outplayed in one inning. They got outplayed in one inning. And they didn't have enough to make up for that. Shame on you, because there were pitches to do it. There were pitches to drive. It was on them. And I know Kyle Wright was nasty. So was Zack Wheeler. They were both throwing haymakers. Zack Wheeler was dropping the Uncle Charlie. Olsen was swinging over. And this was after Olsen almost went yard to that left side, and it was just foul by a couple inches. And then the Uncle Charlie got him. It was some nasty stuff by both guys. But with Kyle Schwarber specifically, he did have a tough day the last few games against left-handed pitching. So you would think, even though his numbers were bad, he had something about 8 at-bats against them and 0 hits. So I kind of figured it wasn't just going to be, boom, an explosive day. But I thought maybe he'd be able to deliver something. Kyle Wright. Who else did they bring out of the bullpen? Was it Iglesias was out of the bullpen? So, yeah, there were righties out there. Still nothing. It did shock me. I didn't expect 3 hits or anything crazy, like I said, because I saw his numbers against Kyle Wright. But I thought I'd see better than what I did. I don't know. I mean, I still have faith in Kyle Schwarber, and it's one of those things like Bryce Harper. I'll rip Bryce Harper, but I know it only takes one game for him to step up. And by the way, since he did, he's basically been red hot. He's been doing it all. He's been getting the hustle doubles, or just, just the doubles in general, but the way that he runs them and the way that he looks at the dugout after, there's a big adrenaline rush because of it. You got to finish the job and get him to round third base and score. I thought with that infield hit to the right side, he hesitated a bit. He was reading it, and he probably thought, well, I was so damn aggressive earlier in the playoffs where I got in trouble and got yelled at by a lot of people, the fans, that is, and the Phillies fans, because it could have been first and third. Instead, he got out at second base. So is now the time for me to put my head down and just go? I don't know. I don't know what he was told about how aggressive that one play was and how much that played a role. Obviously, he didn't do it because of us. I'm just saying in general, was someone on the coaching staff telling him, you can't do that, and then that played a role in maybe his hesitation over at third base. I don't know if he would have been safe or not. I'm just so used to him always putting the head down and flying. I would have to imagine that because he tried to do too much in the past, I don't know, it was definitely in the back of his head. Because when do we ever see him tamed on the base paths? Not much. Not much. But I feel Kyle Schwarber is in the category of Bryce. You're going to have to go through those lulls. You're going to have to go through those tough spots. Once the postseason hit, got a lot of tough matchups. But he has to get himself out of it. And he's the type of guy where you just got to get him more at-bats to do so. But yeah, I mean, there's some pitches I think he watches. There's some pitches I think he fouls back that should be in the seats. He knows that, though. And I think he's been around too long to hit the panic button on him. I know there's not a billion games left, and it's not something just to figure out. But a pro is pro, and he is one, and he's been in these moments. I tried to figure out what you can do after him if you want to try a spark. We'll see, though. But yeah, Wheeler, 6 innings, 3 earned runs, but we know how Rhys Hoskins and that whole thing played out. 1 walk, 5 Ks, 79 pitches. That low pitch count was crazy. All right, we're going to take some anytime hotline calls and hear from you. 856-442-9805. If you'd like to climb in, that's the number. You can leave a message. The offense stunk. It was built to make up for the poor defense. The poor defense showed its ugly head, and the offense wasn't there to shine and score 6 or 7 runs. So then you don't look at Rhys's play the same way. But, that doesn't make anything in that 6th inning less painful. I have to put my crosshairs here as I make a little visual towards the camera right on Rhys and say, that's unacceptable. This is when the moment gets the biggest, and you failed. You failed this team, and you failed this clubhouse, and you failed this fan base on this given night. There's a lot of variables to a game. Who was it the other day? Was it the Arizona Cardinals where the kicker missed one, and they had a player come up during the press conference and say, you don't go to one guy. This isn't one guy. Well, it's a large piece to the pie, or a large piece of the pie, looking at Rhys Hoskins' direction tonight. That's for damn sure. I won't excuse that. It's there, but there's other variables. I wish Zach could have shut it down, even though the dribbler in a very weird spot to the right of Zack Wheeler and towards the third base side isn't anything you could really do with that play. But he even said it himself. I mean, he had some sliders that he didn't feel that he did well enough throwing those pitches. And if he threw those pitches and they hit the location he was looking for, you wouldn't have had those. I love Wheeler. More disrespect to Rhys than anybody on this team right now. That's who I'm blaming number one. I'm just saying that's a part of it. The offense scoring 0 runs is a part of it. But there's no denying that Rhys, that changed momentum. I mean, the team got some juice after that happened. All right, we're going to start things off here.
Hey, bros. So now that it's finally the 2023 offseason, as there's no chance the Phillies win this series. I mean, okay, Noah goes out there and wins tomorrow night. That's great. That's fine and dandy. But who pitches game 3? Who pitches game 4? Who pitches game 5? I mean, the Phillies have no one to go out there and start the first 3 innings of a game. What, are you going to throw Wheeler out there after he just put in the performance of a lifetime? They still got beat.
No. I'm not having that today. Unacceptable call by you where you're going to react and say the entire series is over because they lost one game. It's 1-1 going back home. If this is how they lost game one and then they won game two the same way that they won game one, if that makes sense. If roles were reversed, let's say the Phillies lost game one this way and then game two they punch back and they tie the series up going to Citizens Bank Park, you wouldn't have the same exact reaction. Yeah, I mean, it's legitimate to say, what are you going to do game four? Barely falter? What would you do game five? But here's the thing. They lost with Max Fried on the mound. We lost with Zack Wheeler on the mound. It's a weird, strange game. You won with Ranger Suarez. You still have Aaron Nola to compete on Friday afternoon. I mean, you just don't know. Well, I don't love it. I'm not telling you I love Bailey Falter in Game 4, and that's part of the reasons why I thought this season could come to an end, which is you were built for a 3-game series. You weren't necessarily built for a 5 or 7-game series with your pitching staff. That's fine, but I'm not ruling them out right now because of a loss. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't lose the same way the Seattle Mariners lost with Robbie Ray and the whole Yordan Alvarez thing. That could be a gut punch. That could be a below-the-belt kick where you just can't recover. As bad as Rhys's play was, this wasn't a you can't recover at all. This team is deep depression and can't get out of it. If they are, well, then this team is soft. But they're not. They're not that. They're not collapsing because of this 1L. Wait till they see what CBP is going to look like. Wait till they feel how that fan base is. I'm sorry, that's a bad call. That's overreaction, and that's way too aggressive. You could be mad, but you're saying now that it's the 2023 offseason, and now it's time to make some moves. And what are we doing here? I mean, come on. You're giving up on this team? And don't you dare say, Broads, you gave up on them after Chicago, because, no, I just was mad. And I went overboard. And I apologize. But I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that now. There were reasons to feel that way then. There were reasons. Statistical data. When you look at the horrendous Septembers nonstop and losing 10 of 13, and they didn't show any toughness. They have proven to you toughness to get to this point. I'm not doing that, and I hope there's not more of that.
Hey, bros, I hate to play manager in Major League Sports because I'm nowhere near manager, but what I was thinking was maybe we should have Bone play first and then Sosa play third and then just get Rhys the hell out of the lineup because, first of all, he's not just making bad plays at first base. He's also he's going offers a bunch of time. They just said a stat 1 for 34 in Kyle Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins.
That's not going to happen. I'll finish the sentence for you. That's not going to happen. You're not benching Rhys Hoskins. That's not who Rob Thompson is. You're not going to bench Rhys Hoskins at this time of the year after he was your first baseman all season long. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not telling you I love Rhys Hoskins. I'm not telling you I'm the biggest Rhys Hoskins fan in the world. We hired Rob Thompson. Rob Thompson is a certain style of manager. This style of manager has a huge connection, a deep relationship with these players that Joe Girardi didn't have. And part of the reason why they are so in love with what he does is because he has trust in them and go figure it out. All right, yeah, Rhys needs to make that play, he said in the post presser. He said, yeah, Kyle Schwarber, it seems he's pressing a bit. But these are his guys. You're not going to bench Rhys Hoskins for a playoff series in the NLDS. It's just not going to happen. And realistically, it shouldn't happen. They have to perform better. They need to succeed. Maybe you move him down. You're not benching him and not even putting him in the lineup. That's just uncharacteristic to who the manager is. Now, does that mean he's wrong and you just have to accept it? I guess that's debatable. But I don't know if I'm going to waste my energy there. Because I don't think that's how they're going to do it. I don't see it.
Kyle Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins, wake up. Wake up. Schwarber, you're supposed to be this big playoff guy who produces wins every time you come. You haven't gotten a hit this entire time. You've been an automatic out. Rhys Hoskins, not only aren't you hitting, but you can't make routine plays at first that allows 3 runs to score in the inning that should have been over by that point. Now, I'm not usually going to go this far, but I'm saying you should probably consider moving these guys from 1 and 2 in the lineup right now. You're putting the team in basically a 2 or 3 run hole every time you start these 2 guys at the top of the order. They need to seriously turn it around, or this series might end in 4.
Well, I mean, that's 2 more baseball games, and a lot can happen. You can see the difference on how people feel based off on any given night. Here's what I would do. I would lead Kyle Schwarber off. I'd bat Alec Boehm 2, Bryce Harper 3, JT cleanup, Nick Castellanos 5th, Rhys Hoskins 6th, Stott, Segura, and Marsh, so you can break up the righties. I know that there are some who are fighting me on Twitter claiming that Gene Segura needs to bat higher up in the lineup, but you need someone down there. One, it can help out tremendously once you get there because, well, Stott and Marsh aren't lighting the world on fire. But 2, it also breaks it up, where if you start to move Segura, well, then at one point, if you look at today's lineup specifically, if you had Castellanos, Boehm, and Segura, 3 righties in a row, followed by Stott, Marsh, and Schwarber, which is 3 lefties in a row. And then if, God forbid, something goes down where the team needs to bring in a lefty at any point, and there's a couple guys on, and there's some traffic, some righties got on base, and now you're looking at a spot where you got 3 lefties, and a lefty reliever gets to come in and get a good percentage to get out of a big spot. I mean, that just can't happen. That's a bad decision. So you kind of have to break that up a little bit, and putting Gene down there, someone who can be a threat, and who knows, maybe he gets a big opportunity like he did earlier in the playoffs and deliver it in a moment. I'll take my chances with that. But just to reiterate, I would go Schwarber, Boehm, Bryce, JT as my top 4, with Nick, Rhys, and Stott as your 5, 6, 7, Segura, and Marsh. And, of course, it depends on a righty or a lefty. We know that they're taking Marsh out and putting Matt Vierling in. So, I mean, that definitely plays a role depending on what type of night you're seeing and who's on the bump. But, you're not wrong for what you say. You have to analyze Schwarber and you have to analyze Rhys, and you were able to overcome that because Nick Castellanos had a stellar day where he had 3 hits. He had 3 RBI, right? I mean, how many games are you going to have to rely on that for you to win? If your top guys go, this is what you need. You don't need them to have 6 total hits combined. If Kyle Schwarber had 1 hit, if Rhys had 1 hit now, instead of Castellanos needing 3 with 3 RBI, if he only has 1, or let's say he has 2, it changes everything. Now, every game has its own personality. It's not going to be evenly distributed every single night. Some nights it's just going to be 1 guy. Some nights it's going to be 2 guys that carry you. The fact that you have more talented players on your team, it gives you a higher percentage for that to happen on a consistent night. But, I mean, you can't depend on a guy who has been miserable all year long in Castellanos to win you postseason games on the road nonstop because, well, this is what you're going to get. And this was the problem with this team when we were heading into the playoffs. My fear was they're so inconsistent. One night they rake, the next night their defense is bad, and, it came down to 1 play. It was 1 bad, brutal play, although Castellanos could have had a catch out in foul territory, but Zack Wheeler ended up getting the strikeout anyway, so it didn't hurt you or whatnot. But, yeah, I mean, we need more. You have to step up.
Frustrating game, man, especially since Wheeler was so dominant today. But in that 6th inning, again, get the weak ground ball to Hoskins, misplays it. Austin Riley gets the instant single, and then Darno gets the weak ground ball right up the middle. I mean, it's just frustrating. I mean, the Braves' offense wasn't even that great either, besides, even though ours
yeah, I mean, you're right that they weren't anything special, but they capitalized. Phillies made a mistake, and they said, okay, watch this. We're going to make you pay. You hit our best player, and come on, you heard the fans. We can mock their fans all we want and talk about the ticket prices and how they're so low, but the way that they were booing afterwards, not that they really thought Zack Wheeler hit him on purpose because my man was dealing, but that's what you do when you're in a hostile environment and you knock out one of their best players, even though he stayed in the game. I'm saying nobody knew that at the moment, and when he was down in pain and he was looking at his elbow and he was trying to grab some stuff to see how his hand was doing in that moment, the place went in bonkers. And that helped that team somewhat go on a roll, get a spark, and they cashed in. And they earned that from happening with some stellar defensive plays. Now, I don't know what he would have done with that at-bat, But the Dansby Swanson catch was nuts. Could that inning have changed? Very possible. They earned themselves that position just in general with good pitching, with good defense. And the Phillies never really got handed that. Not that. That's the difference sometimes. So it wasn't an explosive night for them offensively, but it was enough. We'll take one more call.
Bro, I'm not saying I'm disappointed so far, but this game, Kyle Schwarber, Rhys Hoskins, 1 for 35. Come on. Rhys should have had that play at first base. They should have scored Bryce Harper from third base. I think it was in the third inning. Just got to bounce back, man. 1-1. They can do it. Just got to hope for the best, bros.
I like that energy at the end. They can do it. They can do it. Absolutely, they can do it. 1-1. All right? That's bigger picture approach. But this team, it wasn't going to be easy. You weren't going to walk into Atlanta and just annihilate the Braves. This team has winning culture. Now, I don't know if they're the same exact Braves team with Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson. That's still to be determined. That guy was such a special dude and such a special personality. Even though you can acquire great talent who can mash, maybe not have the same amount of batting average and do everything the same, they have a great first baseman in Matt Olson. But do they still have the same winning pedigree? I don't know. Only time will tell. I thought today was a good response for them, but there's still a ton of baseball to be played. And this was going to be a brutal one. Both teams know a lot about each other. You talk about a scouting report throughout the regular season. You've seen a lot of their pitchers. They've seen a lot of yours. You're familiar, which makes it a lot different compared to maybe a team you don't see as much. This was always going to be hard. So what are you made of? And I expect them to have a pulse, especially going home. I wouldn't be surprised if when we speak Friday night, we're discussing how the fan base and how everyone in South Philadelphia helped carry this team to victory. Because you thought at times it was loud at Truist Park. You just wait. Multiply that by 3,000. It's going to be insane. And I'm excited for it. So that's kind of my thoughts. That's where we're at. I want to thank everybody so much for hanging out with me. New to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one.